What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the channel. Today's video is about my honest review on my 2019 Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200 Iron. Right, truth be told, this is my first Harley-Davidson, and there was a lot of questions I had between getting an 883 or a 1200, so stick around. I hope I can help you make a more informed decision when it comes to purchasing either of the two models. And here she is. I'm gonna do a quick walkthrough on all the modifications that the owner before me added. He added some saddlebags, some off-brand slip-ons, an air filter, an engine guard, a windshield, and he also added LEDs all around, which is phenomenal. He also added a fuel pack 3 by Vance and Hines. I always mess up that name. But I hope you enjoyed the quick walkthrough. So your first question must be, RJ, why the Sportster? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my history when it comes to riding motorcycles. So I've had my motorcycle endorsement for about 8 years. Unfortunately, as most of us, go through life, some things happen. And well, I ended up selling my bikes that I did have. I started off with a 636 Kawasaki Ninja. I love that bike. I regret selling it each and every day, but I sold that. And then a couple months later, I ended up buying a Honda Shadow, completely stock. I ended up bobbering her out, which was great. She looked phenomenal. I'll include some pictures of the other two bikes that I've had before at the end of the video, so you guys can either tell me I did a good job or, hey, you need to not be modifying motorcycles. But anyways, back to the original question as to why the Sportster. Well, this is my first Harley-Davidson. I don't consider myself a Harley-Davidson fanboy, but I will say when it comes to the style and the, and the body of the Sportster in particular, it's always drawn to. I've always been drawn to it. It kind of reminds me of the old school motorcycles, from the 1940s and 50s, which is why I even gravitated towards wanting a Harley-Davidson, right? Because, nowadays you have all these other brands. You have Indian as well. You have Honda, you have Yamaha that make some really good looking motorcycles. But if you're like me, just the way the Sportster is built, the body is just, I don't know, it's beautiful to me, right? I'm not a sound all sentimental about stuff, but I truly enjoy how the body looks, and for that reason I went with the Harley-Davidson Sportster. Now, to answer the initial question, why the 1200 versus the 883? Well, to answer this question, I'd have to try to keep it simple as possible. I don't want to waste anybody's time here. But to be honest, it was the engine displacement that pushed me more towards the 1200 versus the 883. And don't get me wrong, I still have a particular look that I like on the 883. I think the seat, the initial, the OEM seat that you get with the 883 is more of a bobber look. Versus the Iron 1200, you have the little step-up seat, which I don't particularly like, which mine doesn't have, but I know most people do. But to answer the question, it's because I'm thinking long-term when it comes to owning this motorcycle. I kind of want to keep it. I'm hoping to keep it for the next 5 to 10 years, obviously, right? Depending on if my wife decides that she wants to ride with me, I'll put a different seat on. But I think 1200 cc's is gonna carry me for a very long time, and for that reason I ended up going with the 1200 versus the 883. Don't get me wrong, they are almost the exact same. They are the exact same motorcycle, obviously minus the cc's, and then a couple cosmetic things like the Iron, right, doesn't have those ape handles. It has more of a I would say, obviously a bobber look, right? The lower handles And honestly, I've always wanted some, I guess these are called mini apes. I've always wanted mini apes on my motorcycle. So again, that's another thing that pushed me towards the 1200 versus the 883. And I guess like the final thing that really pushed me over was the price. So typically I got my bike off of Facebook Marketplace. The guy had initially posted it up for about $8,500. Obviously he had to post it for a while. I think it was like almost 3 to 6 months. I forget which one it was. But you know, similar bikes, just like the 1200 that I got. The guy, there was people out there that wanted same almost $6,000 for 883. And you know, after some negotiation with the guy, he ended up giving it to me for, I wouldn't say give it to me, he ended up selling it to me for a really good deal. So I had to take it, even though I had to travel a little bit, but west to pick it up. Saw it. He had a lot of different things done to it. And well, we agreed $5,000. I ended up doing it and purchasing it. But that was the final nail in the coffin, to be honest with you guys and gals, right? Was the price tag. Obviously, like, I'm new to the Harley-Davidson scene. And like I told you all in the beginning of the video, I in particular really enjoyed the body style of the Sportster, and I guess everything lined up correctly for me to have this opportunity to purchase this bike, and I don't regret it. Some cons. I will tell you, there are a couple negative things when it comes to the bike. Nothing too crazy, right? But I will say that I think the number one con that this motorcycle does have is the small gas tank. I will find myself constantly at a gas station filling up because my light is on. Keep in mind, the gas tank has a capacity of 3.5 gallons. You know, so usually I get about 70 to 75 miles before the check engine light, the fuel light comes on. I've always been kind of, you know, on the cautious side. I try not to let the light come on. So I'll have on the odometer, one of the trips, I will keep track on how many miles I have on, you know, trip A. Usually I get about, like I said, 75 miles before my light comes on. So anything before that is I'll stop by, I'll fuel up, and then, you know, go on my way. I just got to my destination, buying some essentials for my meal prep that I'm gonna be preparing here soon. One thing that I did notice once I get all my stuff together, get my life together here, right? Like I need to come up with a system, you know, to more efficiently get off the bike and, you know, get going. But one thing that I did notice once I got here was that actually my right side saddlebag is loose. I had adjusted the shock absorbers because they weren't rated for my weight and all my gear. So you see there, I find it and I'm like, what is going on here? Unfortunately for me, I had put the bolts in and I was getting everything situated, and then my ADHD kicked in, or whatever you want to call it. I got distracted and I forgot about it, and then I rode off. So I'm extremely sorry, so sorry for anybody that finds those bolts. I pray to God, I pray that nobody gets them in their tire, because I'm so embarrassed. But I'm gonna head over to the hardware store because I cannot be riding like this. Literally, I have no zip ties, no tools in this bike right now. I'm in the process of getting some additional tools for the bike, but that's where I'm gonna go right now. I'm heading over to Ace Hardware. Gonna fix that real quick. That way I can ride safely back home without my saddlebag laying on my exhaust pipe. But back to the story, back to what I was saying, right? So yeah, the cons that I have with the bike, they're very minimal. I love the bike, besides the fuel tank being small, but at the same time, that's the design that I like, right? The peanut tank, I like the design, I enjoyed it. So this is why I got the bike. So if you can deal with that, you can deal with, constantly hanging out at the gas station, then this bike's for you. I think the final con that I see, just based on this trip alone, was the seat. The seat is not the greatest, but at the same time, it's not the worst. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. It's okay, right? It's not a big deal. I'm actually in the process of purchasing a LaPera motorcycle seat. I think I bought the bare bones model, right? So I can give the bike a little bit more of a bobber look that I'm going for. Overall, like I said, the seat's not the worst, but it's not the best. I definitely would say that's one of the things I would upgrade if you're looking for things to change on the motorcycle. Is the seat, the exhaust, and maybe a tune is the big 3 that I would do when it comes to the motorcycle. However, right, in addition to that, I want to highly encourage each and every one of you, once you purchase the bike, because I know you're going to purchase it because it's so awesome, I would encourage you all to read the owner's manual. And I say this because you're going to find, as you continue to do your research on this motorcycle, that one thing is consistent about all the videos. And they always talk about how terrible the suspension is. Well, it turns out that if you read the owner's manual, it tells you right there that you need to preset the shock absorbers to a particular dot, right, based on the weight of the rider and all their gear, right? So that's a situation that I had with this bike. It was set to 3 dots, which goes from, I believe, 165 to 175, something like that. I don't have the manual in front of me, but turns out I had to be at 4 dots versus the 3, right? And once I did that change, the suspension and the way the bike handled was enormous. So it was extremely beneficial for me to actually read and gather the information and use that information, so I can, assist the bike in handling better, because, right, like, it's the bare bones here. Like, this bike isn't top of the line. It doesn't have air suspension. It has the basics that make a motorcycle, and that's it. So with that in mind, do your research, right? Read the manual, and if the manual states, hey, this is where you need to be at, I promise you, once you modify the suspension, the bike isn't going to bottom out anymore. And that was one of the situations that I had. The bike bottomed out a couple times because I didn't know any better, right? So I continued to do some research, and I was pretty close on buying some aftermarket suspension, but thankfully, right, I found a YouTube video that said, hey, before you spend a couple $100s, here's a tip that might help you save a couple $100s with your suspension. And it worked out for me. So I would encourage you guys, again, and gals, to do your research, read the manual, do the changes to the bike, right? Maintain records of all the maintenance and all this other stuff. If you're not mechanically inclined, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be making videos when it comes to the basic maintenance of the bike, right? You have to do the oil change. You have to do the primary oil change, the primary gear oil change, the belt. And then obviously, right, you want to check your clutch slack, your brakes, all that stuff. I'm going to be making videos on that for this particular bike. A little bit more of my backstory, right, in conjunction with what I just said about doing videos with the maintenance of the bike. I've actually been a diesel technician for about 15 years now. So I'm not saying I am the most expert individual, but I do know my way around a motorcycle. I know my way around, any particular engine, right? The mechanics are essentially almost the same, right? When it comes to a vehicle and a motorcycle, I just feel like the motorcycle is a little bit more bare bones. But yeah, subscribe to the channel so you can see me do the maintenance, so you can learn, right? So you too can be proficient, and you can take care of your motorcycle, right? Because if you're like me, I don't particularly like to take my vehicle or motorcycle to any dealership, because any dealership, as the common word is, right, a dealership is a stealership. They're gonna steal your money. And no offense to technicians that work at dealerships, right? No offense to anybody, right? But like in this economy right now, we got to be smart with our money. We got to take care of our stuff, and if you can get some value out of this, right? With me teaching you a thing or two about maintaining your bike. I'm all about it. This situation right here, this Dodge Charger was literally on my tire. So I decided to, I gotta get away, right? I gotta get a safe distance between me and that guy because it's not safe. He was riding my tail the entire time. I'm trying to get away from him, but ride safe out there, right? There's individuals out there that they just don't seem to care about anybody else's safety. And if you're gonna ride a bike, let me tell you right now, the number one advice that I can give you, and I hope you take away from this video, is you need to ride defensively. You need to ride like everybody and their mother is trying to kill you. Not necessarily intentionally, right? Because not everybody out there is evil or bad individuals. But just put yourself in their situation, right? Like you're driving your car. Some of us are on our phones. We're distracted. Life happens, right? We don't have that chance. We don't have those airbags. So when you ride a motorcycle, your head needs to be on a swivel. So appreciate you guys watching this video. Stay safe. Take care, guys.